So this is just getting you used to this weird formula manipulation shtick. And I tried to stick almost every weird variation on here. So some of them would have been fairly straightforward. Some of them would have been more challenging. Oh, we have to do my favorite student, good old Anne. Here we go. Number 1. So I would give you a half mark if you wrote Don't worry yet, I'll show you how all the marks work. They want me to get the t by itself. Well, the VF is going to drop down like a domino. There would be a minus VI. Divide by A. That equals t. So t is going to be VF 24.6 minus VI 3.2, all divided by 2.5. Come on. 24 brackets around the top, or use the fancy fraction button. Minus 3.2. Oh, Annika, is this a fraction? Is there more than one thing on the top? Then brackets around the top, right? Just give me 1 second here.
Come to the office.
Oh, keep typing, Mr. Duick. Divided by 2.5. Did you all get 8.56? If you said 8.6, I'm okay with that. If you said 8.5, I would say we round off properly. We don't chop off. So I'm going to go to 3 sig figs, 8.56. Units, please. So here's how I would mark this. If you had the right answer with the units, you would get 2 out of 2. Otherwise, I would give you a half mark if I saw that line somewhere, a half mark if you had successfully rewritten the equation, a half mark for the numbers, and a half mark for the answers. But if you're missing or have the wrong units, I'm taking a half mark off every time. So my message to you is on tests, try not to leave stuff blank, even if you can figure out the approach. Well, I think I'd use this equation. I'll reward you for that because to me, that's part of what I'm trying to instill in you. Number 2. I think I'm going to use D equals VIT plus a half AT squared. I want to get the D by, oh, hey, it already is. Well, that's kind of nice. So here I would give you 1 whole mark for that equation, a half mark for finding the correct equation, and a half mark for getting the D by itself because, yay, it already is. It's going to be D equals negative 8.5. I guess we started out going backwards. T 19 plus 0.5, 2.5. We're accelerating forwards. Going backwards, what does that mean? In reverse, we'd be slowing down. We might come to a stop and then start going forwards. That's what accelerating forwards would mean. Don't forget the 19 squared, Mr. Duick. If you have a good calculator, and most of you do, oh no, you have a good calculator now, you can type this in one fell swoop. Negative 18.5 times 19 plus 0.5 times 2.5 times 19 squared. You get 289.75. I'm going to call that 290. Units, meters. So 1 mark, half mark, half mark. I'm going to mark it that way for the rest of the quiz, so I might not always put the 0.5s in. I'll expect you kind of spot the pattern. So far, so good? Okay. Ooh. Number 3 was the first mini curveball because I don't know if I did this one as an example with you. It still starts out as D equals VIT plus a half AT squared. Now I'm going to pause. If you still can't find this equation, you want to be a little worried maybe and come in for some extra help maybe. So you want to hit me up either Tuesday afternoon, we're all showing up for class, aren't we? Yes, yes? Okay. And then you can have Thursday. Actually, Thursday can maybe be like a study day or something like that. We'll figure something out. All right. Actually, Tuesday is going to be labs, fun labs. Good, I think. Yes, that'll work. If you're still having trouble getting this equation, that's where you need to be a little panicky. If you're still having trouble rewriting it, you're okay with that. If by the end of class on Monday, you're still having trouble rewriting it, you want to panic a little bit, okay? What am I trying to get by itself, Annika? Until you get good, put a dot there. Definitely the D is going to drop down like a domino. I will divide by t, but the dividing and multiplying, it's reverse BEDMAS. I'll do that later. I need to take care of this 0.5 at squared. It's adding. I guess I'm going to minus 0.5 at squared. Divide that whole thing by t. That equals VI. How many of you got that equation? Nice! Are you going to memorize it? Don't! And by the way, you can see if I tried to put every equation on that green sheet, it would be a book, right? I'm not even going to make an effort. I'll teach you how to derive these. Negative 70 minus 0.5 times negative 4.8 times 24 squared, all divided by 24. Annika, is this a fraction? Is there more than one thing on the top? Brackets around the top, or use your fancy schmancy fraction button. Negative 70 minus 0.5 times negative 4.8 times 24 squared, close bracket. Notice, do I show multiplication with brackets on my calculator? I think that clutters up my calculator. I'll show multiplication with brackets when I write, but not on my calculator. Also, you'll notice I don't need to put this squared in brackets. If the 24 was negative, I would need to either put it in brackets, or I might cleverly clue in the negative's going to vanish when I square it and not bother typing the negative. Close off the top. Is there more than one thing on the bottom? No brackets around the bottom. Do you get 54.6? How about 54.7? Again, if you said 54.6, I'm taking a half mark off. Units, it's a velocity, meters per second. Half mark for the equation, half mark for the rewrite, half mark for the numbers, half mark for the answer. Mr. Dweck, yeah? What if I go straight to this without writing the original equation? Then I would give you 1 whole mark for that. So this is how I do the part marks, but if you get it right, 2 out of 2. If you're comfortable taking some shortcuts, that's what I want you to get to. Certainly in your homework, take shortcuts. Number 4, VF squared equals VI squared plus 2AD. Oh, the VF is already by itself. No, it's not. The VF squared is by itself. How to get rid of a squared? Yeah. The whole side. I have some students that think, so does the squared on the VI cancel? No. You're square rooting that whole side, which really means you're going to calculate that whole side, hit equals, and then square root your answer in terms of our BEDMAS order of operations. So it's going to look like this. VF equals the square root of 28 squared plus 2 bracket 9.8 152. If it's a big long square root, I stole this from another teacher. Often at the end, I'll put a little downward hash mark so you can clearly see that's where I'm saying the square root ended. You don't really need to do that much this year, but as we get more and more complicated, you might have a lot of, it's a good habit. Just makes things a little cleaner. Those of you that have the fancy fraction buttons also have a square root that does like a little box inside of it. I don't, so I do the square root first. Hit equals, and then go square root answer button. 61.3, is that right? Again, if this was a word problem, it would say something like, we start out going forwards or up at 28 meters per second. We're accelerating forwards at 9.8, and we travel 152 meters. How fast are we now going? And then turn the page. VF squared equals VI squared plus 2AD. Same equation, but now they want me to get the A by itself. I guess the VF squared is going to drop down like a domino. I would minus the VI squared, and I would divide by 2D. That would give me an A by itself. And it's going to be, oh, I'm noticing that my final velocity is smaller. I'm going to get a negative acceleration because I'm slowing down. So if I get a negative, I won't freak out. I'll relax because I think I'm right. So it's going to be 22 squared minus 40 squared, all divided by 2 times 96. Bracket 22 squared minus 40 squared. Annika, do I need brackets around the bottom? Is there more than one thing in the bottom? Huh? There you go. Am I going to let it die? I will eventually let it die, but I'm going to keep coming back to you and grinding my thumb on the emotional bruise for a little while. You get negative 5.81. How about negative 5.81? Yeah. And acceleration, meters per second squared. Wrong units, half mark off. Number 6, D equals VIT plus a half AT squared. Owen, what does number 6 want me to get by itself? I know you're zoning out, so I brought you back. The T. Why is this equation so tricky? Because there's a T and a T squared. There's a fancy term for this, grade 12s, you know this is a quadratic. How do I know it's a quadratic? It's got a squared in it, and you could quadratic formula this, and grade 11s, you'll get there if you're in Math 11 this quarter, but if you're not, that all sounds like gobbledygook. I can't ask you to get the T by itself right now. However, Owen, what was VI in this question? Now I can ask you to get the T by itself. Really, I think of this as, and you can write this either AT squared over 2, or you can write this as D equals 0.5 AT squared. I don't care. But we are going to be using this one fairly often because in free fall today, when we drop an object, what's VI? 0. So this situation will show up a lot in free fall. When I jumped out of an airplane, I mentioned I jumped out of an airplane. When I jumped out of an airplane, when I was sitting on the edge of the airplane, my initial velocity vertically was 0. Okay. To get the T by itself here, it would be times by 2, divide by A, and then square root. Times by 2, divide by A, square root. To get the T by itself here, it would be divide by 0.5A, square root. And what you can see is, Ethan, dividing by, oh, that's right. Dividing by 2 is the same, timesing by 2 is the same as dividing by a half, okay? That's going to give me the square root of 2 times 240 divided by 10. I might be able to do that in my head, can I? It's going to be 480 divided by 10. It's going to be square root of 4 no. 2 point something. 2 times 240 divided by 10. Square root of 48. No, not 2 point something, Mr. Duick. 7 point something. No, 6.9 something. There we go. 6.93. And that is seconds, Mr. Duick. Seconds. I just erased a whole bunch of stuff I didn't want to erase. There we go. Seconds. 2 more. Oh. D equals bracket VI plus VF all over 2 times T. Ethan, what does this want me to get by itself? Sorry, before you answer that, you may notice I'm being kind of sloppy in my vector notation here. It's going to become a bit more important today because free fall definitely has direction. I'm not going to take marks off if you don't put in the little vector signs, but just pay attention to direction with your negatives and positives. What does it want me to find? What's going to drop down like a domino? Yep. Then what? Well, what's the 2 doing to the t? Dividing. So what's the bracket doing to the t? Multiplying. So divide the bracket. And is that a fraction? Is there an implied bracket around the bottom on your... So I didn't even bother writing the bracket because I know it's there. That equals t. So it's going to be 2 times 2,400 divided by 5.5 plus 20. Did I get 188.2? 188? If you go to more sig figs, I'm not going to take marks off, but if you're wondering, 3 is sufficient. And that's a time, seconds. D equals bracket VI plus VF times T over 2. Ooh. Riley, what am I trying to get by itself in number 8? Where's the VI inside the... When I say bed mass, what does the B stand for? I'll do that last then because it's reverse bed mass, rearranging this. I think the first thing that I would do is I would times the 2 over. And I might even just cross it out and write it like that. The second thing that I would do is I would divide the T over, and I might even cross it out and just write it like that. And so I would see 2D equals, I would see this, 2D over T equals VI plus VF. I wouldn't write that. You could, but I would try and just imagine it. What am I trying to get by itself? How will I move the VF over? And it's going to be a little strange. It's going to be minus VF, not inside the fraction, just tacked on the end. That equals VI. VI is going to be 2 times D over T minus 24. Oh, I can do that in my head because 24 divided by 12 is 2. Did I copy this right? 2, I put the numbers in the wrong place. 2 times 120, Mr. Dewick, that's better. All over 12, copy properly. I can still do that in my head because 120 divided by 12 is 10. It's going to be 20 take away. Is it negative 4? Did I write this out wrong, Mr. Dewick? 2 times D over 12. Sorry, is it 0? No. Yeah? What am I? 2 times, I'm doing something dumb this morning because my brain is not where it should be. Negative 4, I was right. Isn't it negative 4? Have I done something wrong, Mr. Dewick? Okay, 2 times the 2, divide the T, minus the VF over. So VF is 24. D is that. D, yeah, it's negative 4. We started out going backwards. Am I wrong? Am I negative 4? Yeah, I got a few. Okay. That's right the first time. I should have trusted myself. So each one of these is worth 2. So can you give yourself a lovely score out of 16, please? And if you want to pass them towards the middle, first of all, if you want to lawyer with me, now is the time. Otherwise, pass them towards the middle. The person in the middle will put them in a nice, neat stack, all facing the same way. I'll enter them, I'll hand them back next class, and then if you want to do your corrections, because you're a mark hound who needs to get every single mark possible, because that's where they get their self-esteem, I'm fine with that. I wasn't looking at anyone in particular during that little spiel there.